Welcome to the Soul Wisdom Project, the living blueprint of the soul, with me, Shakti Bottazzi, your host. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by your daily life as if something inside you is trying to get your attention? As an international teacher, shaman, and energy healer, I will bring the tools of a lifetime to guide you to explore how to live consciously, awaken your innate wisdom, integrating the design, development, and emergence of your divine blueprint. Each episode blends grounded conversation with multidimensional insight, guiding you to release old patterns, align with your higher intelligence, and live awake, aware, and fully present. The Soul Wisdom Project with me, Shakti Bottazzi, starts now. Welcome once again. My name is Shakti, if you're new here, and I'm excited to be with you today to share topics that are near and dear to my heart and deeply embodied in my teachings, in my transmissions, and that I have seen transform my own life and the lives of those that I work with in my tribe. And today's episode is about one of those topics that is difficult to pinpoint in our lives. And when we finally realize that that's us, that has been happening to us, it opens an amazing window to understand something about our lives that we never quite could figure out. And that is how connecting the awakening journey we are on with the experience of not feeling safe in our bodies can really transform our understanding of how we are moving through our lives. When was the last time that you truly felt at home in your body, comfortable, at ease in your body? And this is not about are we skinny or are we overweight? It's not about that, regardless of our shape, of our size. Some of us just can't feel quite at home in our bodies. And this is what today is all about, this conversation. How does thriving in your purposeful life journey and feeling at home in your body are connected? This was very much my journey. And for those of you curious to go deeper in this is what my book, Remembering Her, a Soul Embodiment Journey, is all about. You can find it on Amazon, Kindle, Kobo, everywhere, every bookstore in the world. So just go there and find it if you're curious to know more. And it's also one of those topics that keeps showing up in everywhere and everything I do because it is so common to so many women across the world at this time. I work with women all over the world, maybe because I am quite international myself. I was born and raised in Argentina. I then moved to the US for 5 years. Then I went back to Argentina. Then I moved back to the US. Then from there, I leapt the ocean and went to Italy for like 20 years, where I raised my children who were born actually in Argentina and in the US. And then I came back to the US, where I am now, and I do hold three citizenships, and I do speak many languages, more than these three: Spanish, Italian, and English. And I think that is just a frequency I carry, and therefore so many women and men actually, but mostly women, come to work with me from everywhere in the globe, literally Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, England, Scotland, Argentina, Canada, the Caribbean, South America, everywhere, Central America. It's really fascinating for me to meet all these people from across the globe and find that at the core of our being, we are all, whew, can you feel that? We're all really confronting the same issues within us. We have the same hopes, we have the same dreams, and we have such similar journeys, regardless of where we come from. That for me is a beautiful awareness that is very opening for us to understand that we are more alike than we're different. And that is a door opening into truly connecting with that love and compassion within us for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters everywhere, and understanding that every journey is perfect as it is, that we cannot truly by any means judge somebody else's journey because we don't know what that soul is here for. And we cannot say, are they behind or why are they doing that? That's their journey, that creation, and that is perfect for them, such as yours is perfect for yours and mine is perfect for me. And this conversation of today is part of that. My journey had a lot of what I'm talking to you about today embedded in it. This feeling of not feeling saved in my body, and I wasn't aware that I had that feeling. What was happening for me is what I'm going to share with you so that you can see if any of these things happen to you too or for you. And yeah, what happens is that as we grow up, as we are children and we have our own families, our tribes, our experiences at school, our experiences at work, even as teenagers, whatever is happening around us will have a profound influence in our inner felt experience of how we perceive the world and how we perceive our environment and how that lives inside the body, and it stays inside the body long after the moment has passed. And what is so profound about this is that when you are a child, especially when you're a child, and actually, I'm going to go even way back then, when you are in the womb, this starts being imprinted in you when you are in the womb, not even when you're a child, and at the moment of birth, and at the moment of the first year after you were born, and especially until you're 7 years old. And then between 7 and 14, when you're like coming out from the family cocoon into school, kindergarten, elementary school, all of those experiences are things that happened in your life and that will have you interpret those things, those events in a certain way, and you will carry those interpretations inside of you. So let's become more practical instead of just speaking in general terms. When a child is at home playing with her own things, and she may be 3, and her mom comes from work and is in a rush because she has to take the child to the doctor, to the pediatrician for a check, nothing special. But the child is living in her own world and she is totally absorbed in the toys and the dolls and whatever it is that she's doing. And the mom is like, come on, come on, come on, quick, 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 we have to go, we have to go, because the mom is frazzled. Because the mom had a really hard day at work and maybe even snaps at the child internalizes that in that moment, such as, I am wrong, I am bad, equals, I don't deserve to be loved. And you may say, yeah, right, that's too big of a leap. But no, that is what our subconscious internalizes. That aggressiveness, that fast paced, snapping us out of that profound, innocent world of the child is like a shock for the system of the child. That's a soft one. Then we have the big ones, the real big ones, where we have experienced families with alcoholic parents, parents that were abusive, emotionally abusive, physically, parents that just were not home and let you be on your own all day long, a lot of loneliness, a lot of feelings of abandonment. And I know that this thing about the feeling of abandonment is kind of like a big heading going on around in many posts out there, but I'm talking about the true emotion of feeling alone, but more than alone, feeling lonely. And I know, for example, that's one of the emotions I experienced many times in my life because of my upbringing. I was the youngest of four, and there was a big age difference between us. And so by the time I was five, my first sister got married, and by the time I was seven, both sisters got married, and my brother was sent to I can't think of the name of a school where you sleep at school and you don't come back home. So I was home alone, and in a way, I experienced being raised more like a lonely child, an only child. And at that same time, my own mom was going through her liberation period and decided that she had raised her kids and wanted to explore the world and begin working. And so my dad worked all day long, and my mom was never home. And she was not there when I woke up to go to school. She was not there when I came back home. Yes, I had a nanny that would take care of me, but it was just some adult being in the house. But I was a lot alone. And then I experienced deaths in my family. I lost a sister at 19, my dad at 21, and my grandma, the only grandma I knew, also at 21 in the same year. So these were three big losses very fast. And that was just a confirmation in my system that you're alone. And that was a big thing for me, amongst many others. You have to find what those were for you. At the end of the conversation today, you will have more clarity about how to go about that. But the point is that those experiences, the little ones, like the child perceiving this mom's frazzledness as something wrong with the child, to the big ones where a parent is objectively being aggressive and physically abusive. So that is a very objective way. It doesn't matter because inside of us, they register within the same frequency of I don't feel safe. And this brings me to a foundational concept that I take for granted, but I am becoming aware as I'm having this conversation that I want to put it out here in black and white or in the sound waves so that you can receive it, that I'm going under the supposition that you understand that we are souls incarnating in a body to have an experience on earth, and that our body is this costume, this space suit. I love to call it the space suit, where souls can have this sensorial experience on earth. And this biological space suit has an innate intelligence that is amazing and that works in perfect sync when everything is as it is, when it's in harmony. And when it is not in harmony, it begins being in lack of ease, dis-ease. And that lack of ease, that dis-ease, that disharmony, sorry, is brought about through these experiences. And so these experiences stay in the cells of this biological spacesuit, and they become part of the innate intelligence of the system. I'm going to repeat that. The way in which we internalize the experiences growing up and what we make of those experiences and the narrative that we create within based on those experiences, which, by the way, is completely subjective, gets imprinted in our bodies at the level of the cells. And because the body has an innate intelligence, this new information becomes part of the innate intelligence running this bodysuit to keep us alive. And that is why things happen when there's memories that you don't feel safe in your body. That's a big one, isn't it? Woo! Think about that. And think about that for you. How was that for you? Ooh, I know that when I began to understand with depth how these cellular memories, they're called biological codings. There's a code that gets into our biology being the body. Those codes have the complete the information necessary for this body to keep us alive, because the subconscious mind, which, hear this because I'm about to give you an information that you may not have ever heard this way. The subconscious mind runs 93%, no, sorry, 97% of your life experience. Only 3% of your life experience is what your mind controls. What? Yeah, 97% of what your life is, the programs in your life, how you interact with people, and the things that you're co creating have a foundation on the subconscious 97% running your life. Again, wow. And how does this impact you? Because the subconscious has two main functions. The first one is to keep you alive one more second, and the second one is to keep you alive one more second so you can procreate life. That's all that the biological experience needs. The subconscious has that and only that as the main objective, and will create all of the experiences in your life so that it can do that. And it will do it in ways that are not clear for you because they're not linear the way the mind goes about it. They are metaphorical. They are all like your dreams. That's the language that the subconscious speak. So coming back to what I was saying, which this completes that part of the picture, is that this information of how you have taken in what has happened throughout the early years of your life, how you have interpreted all the things that were your life experiences, are now coded into your body and therefore provide information to the subconscious and the programs that your subconscious is running to keep you alive as best as it can. Therefore, if you don't feel safe, now the subconscious knows that and it's going to be doing all it can to keep you safe. And here are one of the things or some of the things that happen, because you may say, okay, that's all grand. And well, what does that mean for me? What does that mean in terms of how is this showing up in my life? How can I tell if these programs of not feeling safe in my body are running in my life? Let me tell you a few examples that may open a window of understanding for you about this, because it has, of course, many ways in which it can show up in your body and in your life, in the experiences that you have. And I know for sure that a few of these you will understand. You know that we have many energy centers in our bodies, and that our bodies are not just the biological aspect that I was talking about, but the biological aspect carries some energetic bodies around it, that our bodies are really all of that, the physical one that you can feel and touch, and then the other outer layers of energy. They're all part of our bodies. And there's seven main energy centers that are called chakras in many traditions, or energy centers, and they align in our spinal cord. And they are in the root, in the sacral, in the solar plexus, in the heart, in the throat, in the third eye, and in the crown. And these seven centers carry information about also different aspects of how we live life. And they play a role there. And we could very loosely say that the three bottom ones, the one in the solar plexus and the sacral around the womb, and the one in the perineum, which is the root chakra, have to do a lot with how we experience life in the body in 3D, how we relate to the world that we can touch. Then we have the heart, which we all know because we all have a heart that loves and struggles with love and pain for maybe unrequited love or wanting to experience love and all of the experiences of love, which are the most beautiful part of being a human. And then we have what we call the upper chakras. The heart is a bridge. You may understand it like a bridge, which are the throat, the third eye, and the crown. So, one of the things that begins happening when you don't feel safe in the body is that you disconnect from these three lower energy centers, and that the result from disconnection of these lower energy centers is that you actually disconnect with what it feels to be in touch with how your body feels. Yeah, it's not a conundrum, but it's literally creating a difficulty for you to receive the signals that the body gives you about being uncomfortable in the body. So, for example, easy examples are that you may feel that, or you may experience that you don't get the clues of when you're hungry or when you're full. It's just simply you don't understand that. You know you have to eat at a certain time and you do, but you don't understand when you're full and you don't understand where you're actually hungry. Or you feel that you're more hungry than you are because not feeling safe in the body, your subconscious running these programs of safety for you wants you to have a bigger body mass as a protection. And I'm sure you've heard this before. So we have a few extra layers in our bodies that act like a shield of protection. And that's just one very simple example of that. Other examples are that we take upon ourselves. Remember that example I gave you about the little girl and how she felt that she didn't deserve to be loved because she wasn't running fast enough to get ready when mom called her? Well, that little girl most likely interpreted that from then onwards, she needed to strive to run at her mom's whims. And that later on means take action and run after her teacher's whims, her boss's whims, her husband's whims, her siblings' whims, her friends' whims, and always putting herself on the side because the basic need of being loved and being um, received and seen and embraced is so need is such a basic need for us, that is such a big need that we're going to do everything we can to overcompensate for that program. We can call it a program, or for that narrative that we internalized for ourselves. So this adaptation mechanism, the more we are good at looking in an environment and understanding what the environment needs, that's called hyper you know what, today my words are like, I have so many thoughts in my mind. Sorry about that. That's the ability to enter a room and checking if the room is safe or not is one of these um, expressions of not feeling safe in the body. And another one is to achieve perfectionism, to achieve, hyperachievement, to strive to be perfect, which of course it's impossible. And so when we strive to be perfect and we really want to achieve all of the best accolades that we can, we really berate ourselves if we fall short. And then we actually feed the loop of not being good enough and not feeling safe in the body. And the opposite of that, which is also one of these strategies, and we may not really understand how that can be the case, is to become a rebel because you just don't want to play that game. And so you go to the other extreme. And when you become the rebel, you're actually numbing yourself also to what others may think of you because you know you're going to trigger them and you don't want to have anything to do with them. And numbing yourself in general is also one of these strategies we use to survive. So I actually moved swiftly from how this looks like for you into survival strategies. And there are two different things. I'll go there in a moment. For now, I want to keep talking about how this may look for you. So, as I was saying, is this disconnection from the lower chakras and being connected to the higher chakras. So that also means to feel that to love is good, but to have sex is not good. That to be a beautiful channel is good, but to feel good in a dress and go shopping is not good. To be totally connected to the cosmos is good, but to want things that have to do with being on Earth and have new playthings and trinkets is not good. So there begins to develop within you also a set of values that reflect that internalized experience of not feeling safe. I want to pause here for a moment because this is a big one. I know I've been giving you a lot of huge things to think about it. And these are so many things to share in an hour, but my intention today is to bring awareness so that you can become curious and you can become your own detective about how this is playing out in your life. And again, I can't emphasize how I have described this whole journey with a lot of examples of my life in my book, Remembering Her, a Soul Embodiment Journey. And in the book, it's not a memoir, it's not me telling my story. It's actually sharing how this journey of embodiment works. And you can see how you have played this journey, how it has played in your life. And yes, I do share some examples of my life that make the understanding a little bit more down to earth as opposed to keeping it only as a theory. And many people that have read the book have told me, oh, it's wonderful. It's like a manual. I need to keep it handy. I've highlighted so many paragraphs. So if this is a topic that really is resonating with you, you may really want to go and get the book on Amazon. And actually, the link is also in the description to this video, together with other goodies that I will be mentioning. So you may go and click on that link and just access the book as well. So before proceeding, I want to say that what we have discussed is a big topic, and I know that I will be talking about it also in our next episode, not just in this one. So bear in mind with me, there's a lot to be uncovered. And for now, I want to help you integrate what we have discussed so far. We have discussed that as a child, when you experience whatever it is that life puts in front of you, including in the time in which you were in the womb, you internalize it and you give meaning to that. And that meaning becomes oftentimes, I am not deserving of love, I am too much, I'm not enough, and whatever other mm, narratives that equate into you not feeling that it is safe to be who you are and to live fully in your body. And because of that, we adapt, beginning to live life in different ways to cover for what those beliefs have created within us. And in so doing, we learn strategies, which I'm presenting here, of survival, accompanying ways in which the strategies show up in my life. And we've talked about how a few of these intelligent adaptations show up in our lives to support us in thriving or living or sometimes just plainly surviving. We're going to take a break in a moment, and after the break, I'm going to share with you a more clear understanding of what those strategies mean. What does it mean to have a strategy? And also a broader understanding of how we go from what has happened to what can I do, and how does that relate to your journey of awakening. So for you, in this moment, take a pause if you want to get a drink. There's a short break now, and we'll get back in a few minutes to continue this conversation. Welcome back. Welcome back. And let's continue this conversation we were having about what does it feel like it when we don't feel safe in our bodies, and how does this connect with our journey of awakening. We mentioned that our bodies remember what our minds have learned, and they remember this, and therefore they find ways to bypass what are interpreted as threats. These ways to bypass what is interpreted as threats is also known, or can be called, strategies of survival, because we learn to do things that help us stay safe. Now, I want you to do an experiment with me for a moment. Let's say that you lift your sleeve. I have long sleeves, but I don't need a lot of it. And I'm going to show you, and then you close your eyes for a second. And you pass your hand about this distance from your arm. And you can also do it from your face. So I invite you to close your eyes for a moment and do this. Pass one hand about 2 inches above from your skin in the arm. If your legs are open because you're wearing shorts or a skirt, do it on your legs. You can do it on your face, on your neck. I'm going to give you a moment. Well, you can open your eyes now. Hold that experience with you for a moment, because, like I said earlier in today's episode and many episodes, we're not just flesh and blood. We are fields of electromagnetic energy. And what I just had you check is in what is called the etheric body. That is a living library of the memory of our emotions, of our abilities to know and remember when we belong and when we don't feel like we belong. It is also where the memories of our wisdom to say what I do like and what I don't like, the wisdom to be able to say no when we mean no and yes when we mean yes. And all of that information lives in this field of energy. It's not living also, and it's not only living inside the cells, it's also living in this field, which has the shape of our physical body, and it's as thick as about 2 inches. So it goes above the skin all over. And I'm asking you, when you did this that I invited you to do, when you touched that etheric body, that energetic field, how did it feel? Were you able to feel maybe, or tune into, or receive the information that there was a different temperature, there was a tingling, there was clearly something that you were feeling. There was a, even sometimes like a resistance, like a magnetic field that you could feel. And granted, some of us are more tuned in to feel these subtle, subtle differences because they're very subtle. You may have not felt anything, and that's okay too, because it's like the air, we can't see it, or the wind, we can't see it, but we know it's there. We can still feel it, right? And I was asking you to do this so that you can perceive that there is that extra layer. And if you are one of the ones that has felt that, cool, keep that in. And if you haven't felt that, try later on to do it with somebody you love. Try inviting your son, your brother, your sibling, your friend, your husband, your lover, whoever it is, and follow their etheric body and see what they tell you. Because it's actually very pleasurable to have somebody caress, I like it to call it like that, caress your etheric body, this layer above your skin. And this complements the information in your cellular um, in your cellular information of what you created to protect yourself. And it also runs the programs of what you are not allowing yourself to feel and that you keep hidden so that you can keep functioning in life in an effective way. These are what I introduced to you with the name strategy of survival. So ways of moving in your world, ways in which you um, show up in life, at work, in your family, in relationships, in everything you do, to ensure that you can cope with whatever is happening. Because the problem here is that when you're not feeling safe in your body, you know as a fact, because I'm telling you, that at one point in your life, there was what I call the moment of fracture. So, in the experience of the 3-year-old girl, that moment of fracture was the moment in which her mom rushed her and transmitted all her frazzled energetic into the child when the child was experiencing life in a completely different universe, in this innocent expression of the present moment. And life just came in there in the way of mom being in a rush and created this moment of fracture. I call it a moment of fracture because what literally happens there is that a part of you, in this case of this little girl, splits to survive. She feels a shock, she feels threatened. A part of her goes into a corner to hide, and another part of her becomes strong and says, I can do this, and goes with mom. But there's an information there that gets recorded. And that moment of fracture, in the example of the little girl, is quote unquote soft. But in the example of a child that was hit by the backhand of a father, still exists, and it's a lot more stronger in the imprint. And these moments of fracture happened often in our lives growing up, and we begin splitting different aspects of ourselves. And again, like I said earlier, they don't need to be big deal things that are objectively a big deal, but they can be smaller, ordinary moments of life where a parent dismisses you because you're young, or shame you, or rejected in a moment of joy. I was a very vibrant child, always playing and always very joyous and loud, quote unquote. At least I was told I was loud. And so many times I was told that to shut up, that I was meant to be seen and not heard, that I was meant to just stand still and be quiet so I wouldn't bother anybody, and all of these reiterations of me not being okay. It wasn't okay for me to be the innocent me. I was 3, I was 4, and I was reprimanded at all times just for being wide-eyed with childlike wonder. And I did internalize that as it's not okay to be me. I did internalize all that information as who I am is not okay, and I created many strategies of survival. And these strategies of survival, in my case, looked like becoming a hyperachiever. Everything I did, I got straight A's, I got all the awards. I was good in sports, good in academia, I was good at work, I was good. I had to be perfect because I believed that only if I was perfect, quote unquote perfect, because perfection is unachievable, I could deserve to be alive or deserve to be loved. And also, what that created was that if I ever made a mistake, I can begin to tell you the spinning that my body did. I would have palpitations. I would go into all of the fight, flight, faint, or freeze strategies because I truly had internalized that if I wasn't perfect, something horrible was going to happen. The first time I made a mistake at work that I was aware of, and I was potentially 27. Not that that was my first mistake, but it was the first big role when I was already a manager. And it was a totally banal error. I thought that you were supposed to never, ever, ever, ever make a mistake. And oh my gosh, what experience that was. And I didn't know it wasn't normal. It wasn't. I didn't know it wasn't normal to feel this way when you made a mistake. Back to the strategies of survival that we were talking about. This moment of fragmentation has a split, and we begin creating strategies of survival. People pleasing, we adapt our behavior to others, we become aware of if a place is safe or not just by simply going in, and we just know how we have to move, who we can talk to, who we cannot talk to, or we can become a rebel. All of these strategies are ways we learn how to behave in order to, we believe, survive. Now, these fragmentations, these moments, these splits of our soul literally leave aspects of our soul behind. In that moment that the 3-year-old girl had a split, a part of her stayed frozen in that episode. And this example I was giving you about one error, and I thought it was the end of my life, is because that error triggered immediately that moment in which the fracture occurred. And I lost the ability to understand that I was 27 at the time. In my mind, I was 3 again, living whatever experience I had lived that had created that belief that you could only be perfect in order to be loved. Do you see how big this is? This is huge, right? And the way this shows up for us is as if you were in your body and half of your soul is literally outside of the body, literally. So you go about life carrying a balloon, and that balloon is half of your soul. And only a little bit of your soul is connected inside. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but that's how it works. And that's why we use the word embodied, because in body, it's not in the body, it's not embodied. And so that's why we say that it's a journey of embodiment. Okay. Because when you're growing up and these informations come through, the body begins carrying that. Your mind learns how to bypass these moments, creating all these beautiful survival strategies. But those aspects of us that were left behind, that were fractured, split out, are are being left behind, and we move about life without them. Yeah, so that's a big one. And you may say, well, but you said you were going to connect that with the awakening process, and I will connect that with you in a moment. But first, I want to tell you that I have created a free handout for you that is called the Living Soul Blueprint or the Soul Living Blueprint. And it has information for you to understand more about what we're talking about. And it brings a bigger understanding that I'm going to go further into details in our next show, episode 8, about how there is a way for us in which we are meant to experience life called the living blueprint of the soul. And that way has the most beautiful expression of who we can be and how we can feel that we're truly showing up in life, experiencing the essence of who we are. And that gives meaning, profound meaning to being who we are and being alive, and creates depth and richness in the relationships we have and in the things we do and in the daily awakened states of our lives. I invite you to download this handout because the written word has a way of being with you that's different than maybe the oral world word like what I'm sharing with you. And you can find out also in the description of this episode, and you can find that everywhere where you find this episode, in the podcasts, if you're listening to podcasts, in my YouTube channel, on my website. It's everywhere. So just if you want this, click this episode. If you're watching here, if you're watching anywhere else, click in the description of whatever you're watching and download the Living Soul Blueprint handout to support even further this journey of awareness for you. Back to the last point that I wanted to address for you today, and that is how is what I'm sharing relating to your experience of the awakening journey. It is relating because when we go about life with our soul as a balloon, half outside of our bodies, what happens is that because of everything that I have shared with you today, we are unable to fully experience life on earth. And life on earth is meant to be experienced as a holistic uh, expression that has the five sensorial expression of touch and smell and sight and auditory and I'm missing one, the five senses. And it's also meant to be experienced because we are multidimensional beings, experience with our multidimensional senses, sometimes called the sixth sense, which is not one sixth sense, but it's actually 12 different ways in which we can experience life beyond the five senses. But in order to be able to fully access the realm of our multidimensional, multisensorial beingness, which is key for your awakening, it is fundamental that you can be fully inside your body, feeling safe inside your body, and feeling what this word that many people use, fully grounded, because the more you can ground yourself, the stronger your roots, the safer you feel in the body, the easier, it seems counterintuitive, but it isn't, the easier it is for you to actually drop down so that you can go up and leave the body to have this most beautiful multisensorial experiences and then come back fully in the body and experience that in the body. And that is why when we are living life through our survival strategies, being not fully embodied, it affects our ability to fully tune into our multidimensionality. And the ability to fully tune into our multidimensionality is what opens up the doors into our ascension and into an experience of life that is so profound, so deep, that gives you the full spectrum of the beauty of experiencing the carnal uh, beauty of tasty food, a good night's sleep, a hug, a beautiful perfume, um, colorful art, everything that comes through the experience that only this beautiful spatial bodysuit can give us, while at the same time enriching it even further, opening up to what is available for us from the living blueprint of our souls. And accessing the living blueprint of our souls can be done better and better and in a broader and deeper and wider spectrum, in a wider way, the more we are embodied inside our body. Woo, that's a big one, isn't it? What if I told you that everything we've just spoken is just the beginning of the understanding of what it means to be fully embodied, and all the things that you can do to move further and further into complete embodiment? Well, I'm telling you, this is just the beginning. And that's why I have decided that episode 8 is going to go deeper into more aspects of what this means and how this shows up in your life. But for now, and for you here listening today, I want to tell you this: it's a journey, okay? Just like my book says, Remembering Her, a Soul Embodiment Journey. It's a journey. It's not a thing you do like this in one day. For some of us, the journey happens a lot faster. I'm happy to report that younger people, younger souls on earth at this time go through this journey a lot faster. I I'm in my 60s, and it took a long time for me to go through this journey. And taking such a long time to go through this journey also created quite some frustration in my life. At times, I spoke with my guides and I said, well, why some people are 30 and they figured it out, and I'm in my 60s and just now figuring it out. And I was explained how many of you listening to this, you could be in all range of ages. You could be in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s. So for each one of us, this experience will have been different. And for sure, because I now know how different decades of the generational awakening journeys are different, and we're imprinted different by divine design. I now know that for those of us over 55, we came here with the role of preparing the stage. We came at a time on earth where the density, literal density of the earth frequency was very dense. Like I say, walking through molasses. And for some of us, and this was my case, that are empaths and are open channels, it was very difficult at times to keep going through this density and all the darkness. And I now know that that was part of my soul agreement. I came in order to move through this and to open the field for souls that came after. And again, many of us who are in the ages of 55 and onwards on this year, 2026, have had, at least in a certain part or aspect of their life experiences, this soul mission. And of course, not just that, because here I am talking to you in the Soul Wisdom Project at a completely different frequency, thankfully, because I went through the journey. But what I'm saying is that for each one of us, the experience may be faster, but it will have the same elements that we have had the conversation about tonight. These elements about how the fracture happens, the trauma, I want to call it for ease of purposes, happens throughout the the birthing process, throughout the pregnancy of the mom, the birthing, and the first 7 years, and then the next 7 years. So from -9 to plus 14, we can say, years of our lives. These experiences create the imprinting of the narrative with which we go through life. And that imprinting has a result in what do we do as an answer to that narrative, as an answer to that interpretation of what life is about and who we are in relationship to that life. We create strategies of survival. And the ways in which this shows up in your life could be numbness. You can numb yourself. And we didn't speak a lot about that. And let me just add a little parenthesis: numbness through drugs, through overeating, through alcohol, through any kind of addiction, right? It could be a soft addiction, it could be a big addiction. But we numb ourselves when we go for that because it's too difficult to hold that pain, because at all times, whatever may be happening in our lives keeps triggering back that memory of the moment of fracture, the moments, because there's many, okay? And we can become hyperachievers, we can become rebels, we can become perfectionists, we can become people pleasers, all of these ways and more in which we learn how to adapt to the environment. The key point here is that instead of connecting deeply with who we are, connecting with the core of our essence, with our living blueprint of our soul, which is our guiding path, okay, the golden path, we have our attention focusing outwards into what is everybody else telling us that we need to be. So we are taking all of that outside information and internalizing it, believing, thinking, and acting upon it as if the outside is telling us what is true for us. And the awakening journey is none other than us letting go of all of that, coming back to our inner authority, to our inner belief that, yes, we are meant to be alive, lovable, safe, and that we are amazing, and all of the other things you want to say about yourself, feel, live, and express, but understand truly that you're unique and that your essence is needed because the universe doesn't have redundance. There's nobody else like you, and you and only you can do what you are here to do. And that is a journey to really let go of that internalized acceptance of what everybody else has told you that you needed to be, your belief that the outside world knew better, and to turn that inside and begin you being the one telling yourself who do you need to be and how you are beautiful and how you feel safe. And I know that this journey sometimes it's hard to take on your own. It's not always easy to move through it on your own. And for those of you who do feel that this transmission today opens something that feels that you're ready for deeper support, for one-on-one work with me, I do that too, and you can find that all over my website. If you go there and you go to theawakenpath.com under where it says work with me, you can buy one multidimensional session or you can buy a purpose activation session and we can discuss how else I can support you. There's many, many things already that you can do, but sometimes you want that one person in your court. You need that person to hold your hand for a moment because I believe powerfully that you are beautiful and wonderful, and that the more empowered you are, the more you're doing what you're here to do. And my role is to help you in remembering, help you in being empowered with that. Beloved ones, thank you for being here, for listening. I hope this conversation really sparked something deep within you. I appreciate your willingness to hang in there with these complex concepts and remember that the body is your ally, even though sometimes we don't remember that and we think that our body is against us. No, our body is a beautiful, innate, wise suit temple to help our souls, our innocent, beautiful, pure souls experience life on earth, and that the fullness of who you are is meant to be expressed as you are in your full essence and beauty. Thank you once again. Until next time, much love. Thank you for joining me, Shakti Bottazzi, on the Soul Wisdom Project, Remembering the Living Blueprint of the Soul. Tune in every first and third Tuesday each month at 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Continue your journey of conscious embodiment, integrating the design, development, and emergence of your divine blueprint. Deepen your exploration through my book, Remembering Her, a Soul Embodiment Journey, and discover mentoring and retreats at theawakenpath.com. Healing is possible. Your journey is sacred design in motion. To put overwhelm in your past, contact me at www.theawakenpath.com. Stay awake, stay aligned, and keep living your soul's wisdom. See you next time.